Me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
We did not engage in conflict that was out of line with our mission.
Is it disloyalty? Is it sedition? Is it treason to oppose the hands of tyranny? Never!
I will never send troops anywhere on a mission of that kind without telling them that if somebody shoots at them, they can darn well shoot back.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty! Oh, give me death!
A dark cloud is finally lifting across the world as U.S. military intelligence and their global partners are destroying the deep state criminal power structure that has ruled over our planet for hundreds of years.
We are free with the God-given right, and we shall not yield that right to any power on earth.
Hi, I'm Scott McKay. The world is at, and I am your host on The Tipping Point on Revolution Radio, where every Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, we bring you the latest in this ensuing takedown of this global criminal empire.
That's an image of strength.
You'll get the raw, hard truth here on The Tipping Point. So come join us Mondays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern in Studio B at revolution.radio.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast. It's about observing cycles, sharing insights, and solving problems together by combining historical, climate, food, and economic data so you can make informed decisions as we shift into a new era. Here's what was, this is what's coming. Our world is never going back to 2019, so what will the new era look like? And most importantly, what is immediate that will affect the pocketbook and the outlook into next year so we can all get ready? Thank you for joining. I'm your host, David DuByne. And welcome to the first hour of Mini Ice Age Conversations. David DuByne, your host, right along tonight as I'm adding him in here, Dennis Delarier. And you'll remember him from a couple of discussions about which types of ham radios were the best if you're beginning, different types of prepping solutions. And he's got a new blog, new website that'll take us through tonight to talk about some of these ways that, we can get ready. So theusaprepper.com is where we're sitting. Dennis, glad you're joining me because it seems like the world's been falling apart a little bit. Maybe a lot bit, but I do believe now with this FTX collapse that we are definitely entering into a new uptick phase. Everybody around the G20 countries said they'll now require vaccine passports to travel internationally, make things digital, seamless. And then, just the next thing coming in with the financial collapse will be the central bank digital currencies, universal basic income, but in conjunction, you'll have a digital rationing card allowing you to purchase food or allocation to food. So see how all these things, they're all going to come in together. It's going to be a trifecta of nastiness. But since you got the blog up there, we can talk about some solutions too. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, David. How's my audio?
Yeah, if you could turn it up just slightly, and then we could.
Okay, how's that?
Yeah, a little better. Because Mike may be a little closer.
Yeah, I think
I really want to hear what you have to say tonight.
Yeah, I've done that.
Pertinent, valuable,
yeah, I think
we had a really good response about the ham radios. So wherever you like to take it tonight, because I know we see a lot of the same things, but you're super focused on the solutions, and me too. But you seem to have a plan for all of the solutions.
Well, if you look at my website, and like I say, this is brand new. I just tossed everything I was doing and I came up with this one, so it's fairly. If you look at the site, it's preparing for the the global reset and more. And of course, the more part of it is really the solutions for, common everyday old people like me. And so that's kind of going to be the focus of that site. And it's going food, communications, sanitation, and on and on and on. It's just, taking care of things that just may not be available here in the next year or so. So that's I'm really enjoying that, and I'm hoping to enlarge, and I'm trying to come up with a blog every 2 or 3 days with something new. So and I'm also going to probably get out there and show things that I'm doing, and I'm also thinking about maybe an audio blog. I use what do you want to call it? AWS, which is S3, which is a place where you can dump all your stuff. Amazon has it out there in the cloud. So I can put a lot of stuff out in the cloud and then just connect it up to the website. So I'm going to be doing maybe some audio blogging, and then of course the regular web page. But yeah, you're right. Things are looking kind of interesting. And, the World Economic Forum, they seem to be going crazier and crazier every day. And I guess I'm not going to travel on an airplane because I'm not planning on getting any kind of vaccination. And I'm hoping, I don't know about you, but nobody would listen to me, and everybody in my family got vaccinated. And I told my wife I'd divorce her if she did. So my wife and I are not vaccinated, don't plan to be. And so anyway, that's where I'm going to be taking my site. And I'm going to do a lot of, since I'm an old ham radio operator, I am going to do a lot of communication stuff out there. I just put a blog out there about, things that you can put in your bug out bag. And, one of them was radios. And there's a lot of radio equipment out there you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. It's the cheap stuff just doesn't work. You might get a quarter of a mile, and if you get out into the trees and the weeds, you're lucky if you can even talk. So that's kind of the way I'm going to be running my website, my new website, David.
Yeah. So how far do you think we really need to communicate in terms of, if I went out foraging, if we split off, you have to go into that part of town, or just envision a few different scenarios where people might split off to do tasks, pick something up, deliveries, whatever it is. What's a good range that you would you think you would really need to communicate to? 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles? I'm not sure. Because if there is that kind of emergency, situation, I don't know if you're really going to be traveling 25, 50, 100 miles, but it'll be more generalized. So what do you think's a good distance for communication?
Well, the way I had envisioned it, I, of course, don't make any plans because, you need to plan to fail. But I always looked at it as a community thing. Okay, I might have I have neighbor. Then I would like to be able to, communicate with them. And, so I be maybe 4 or 5 neighbors in this neighborhood where I live, I could communicate. And so we're looking at probably no more than, I'd say a mile to a mile and a half. And, we're not like in the middle of a forest. So, that would be nothing. But like I say, even these cheap little radios, they're not going to work. I would suggest that you get a radio at least with 5 watts of power and has an antenna that you can, connect to another antenna that's, higher up in the air if you need to anyway. So that's if you're not going to get a ham radio license, that's a GMRS radio, which is, it's 5 watts. You can change the antenna. You can even, if you got the money, you can put up a local repeater in your area. And all it requires is an FCC license that you pay $32 for. And I just applied for mine just to have it. It's you go online, you sign up, you get an account, they give you a code, and with that code you go and you order the license. It's $32. Pay with a credit card, and bam, you've got a license, and that license is good for the family. So it's not only good for you, it's good for grandma, Uncle Fed, cousin Joe, and all your children, your wife, and anybody that's related to you or in the family anyway, can use the license. So and that license, that with that you can you can purchase, and 3 or 4 miles would be, you could probably do something like that with handy talkies or walkie talkies, whatever you want to call them.
So let me ask you,
those like I said, radio equipment is just local.
Go ahead. When you go to a job site and you always see the guys carrying around the yellow walkie talkies, what kind are those?
Okay, those are GMRS, and there's about 3 or 4 frequencies that the FCC kind of suggests that you use out in construction. Okay, you definitely don't want to get you don't want to use the family radio frequencies, family radio service FRS frequencies, because there's kids, and golly, everybody and their brother has got one of those things, and you can get them for $20 or $10 or a little more. And so these are, and they also you have a tone squelch. So if you have your own tone squelch on your radio, you're not going to get interfered with anybody else that may be talking. And probably in the construction site, everybody has they're using the same frequency and they're using the same tones for their squelch, which if people don't know what a squelch is or a tone, it's just an audio frequency that you transmit when you key your walkie-talkie, and if the other radio has that same tone squelch, then it opens up the receiver and you receive what they're transmitting. So that's more than likely that's GMRS equipment, David.
Yeah, because I'm thinking what's been coming across my airwaves is all of the shipping shutdowns at the moment. So put it in perspective here. FedEx is now laying off workers as we come into the busiest time of the year. There was another company that was the logistics. Just was covering this in a video here that I'm working on tonight. C.H. Robinson, it's the largest layoff in history of freight brokerages anywhere on the planet ever. And it's not related to bankruptcy. It's not related to acquisition. They're just laying people off because there's not enough work. And then here's the kicker of it. Planned Amazon layoffs will hamper e-commerce. This includes the online shopping/shipping. A huge chunk of that is going to be taken offline. So, some of these things that we're talking about tonight in terms of literal hardware, you might think you still have the option to order it online, but it might not arrive. Or it might be in transit for 6 months instead of 6 weeks. At that point, once this really starts to constrict down, seems like our time for getting everything ready would be sort of toward the end. Not completely, but definitely a signal that it's ending.
Yeah, I see that myself. I'm thinking that, like I say in my blog I put out there today, I listed a bug out bag equipment, and everything there is purchased from Amazon. Okay, on that list. And yeah, like I say, you better get it now, because I'm down the road. You're talking about the layoffs. They're going to Amazon has a huge distribution center, probably 8 miles from here. They just built it. It's a monster, but with inflation and people not having money to buy, the things that they used to buy, they're these products are either going to sit in someone's warehouse, or they're not going to be available because no one else is going to purchase them and stock them. So I would think that any of the important things like a rake, a hoe, a shovel, and anything you might use like in a garden, or for communications, or for safety, or medical, food, just everything. Now's the time to do it. So, and I think, like you say, with what you're saying, showing there with all the layoffs, that definitely things are slowing down, and it's going to get harder and harder to get anything that you might need that's important.
Yeah, another part of the plan, because after these 3 articles kind of made their own little article there, a summation of a point, of a dot of reference on, if you're going to try to connect it into a wider picture, not all the shutdowns for shipping to your home are shutting down or stopping, limiting. Because if you think about from COVID, they took away all mom and pop business. Pretty much all small businesses have closed. The only ones remaining are listed stock market, which will do anything that's told from on high. So you look at what's happening in Europe with the shutdown in electricity and natural gas. There's no aluminum, there's no steel, there's no zinc smelting. Anything metals has stopped completely, and anything chemical has stopped completely. So when you look around the shut off and liquidation of our planet here, they started with the what your safety valve would have been, the mom and pop shops. There aren't any in most cities anymore. There's a couple, but not nearly like it was. So then you take away the base metals, okay, and then you take away the fertilizers to be able to grow food. And now it seems that the shipping is being taken away. That's what I was saying. There's a new step unfolding as we speak, because the G20 meetings were happening same time as the COP27, and these kind of have dovetailed, or these two streams have joined into a river of narrative. And now the shut off of the shipping comes, because also just before we even got on air, you always send me a lot of zero hedge articles in passing. Potential nationwide U.S. rail strike may spark chaos. Well, wait, I thought they just averted a strike like 2 months ago, right when the deliveries for grain were coming up on, what was that, the October delivery. And a rail strike was averted. So what do you think of the chances of a rail strike happening on purpose to now put the nail in the coffin of anything? Because you have to realize it all moves by rail. Those trucks that you see, your Amazon truck, that's the last leg to your house. Everything else is going on rail. So if that shuts, your food stops, because most of the food is moved bulk on rail. Mail service stops. most package deliveries in terms of Amazon, like our radios that we might need, tools that we would need for our gardens. I'm actually looking for corks and vanilla beans and an LED heat light for my chickens tonight. After we finish, I'll order those things. It's really difficult to find full long vanilla beans here anywhere. And corks, maybe 50 years ago, but me trying to do some mead and wines and things, I need corks to cork back on a bottle. So, I mean, at what point does it really stop, Dennis? I know you might have an idea, but now throw in the rail strike on top of that and swirl those different closures down. We're coming into a new phase of closure. It's actually the closing off of getting you goods after you order them online. That's what's closing right now, which is downright scary.
Yeah, it's definitely scary, isn't it? The way I look at it is that this is of course happening globally, and I really feel sorry for England and the UK and the EU and all those folks over there with all the energy inflation, and the one I liked is somebody with a chainsaw cut all the seats off, the wood seats off of the bus stops. I thought that when I saw that, I knew I knew that they were in trouble when people start cutting, just going out and taking public wood. You may have to guard your house. Somebody will be over there, ripping wood off your house for their heating. But personally, I see the United States being last in all this, and so all we need to do is just watch what's happening in Europe, and it's gonna come this way. One of the things that I'm seeing now is even the post office is not doing a very good job. People they're not getting their mail delivered, and I talked to a lady the other day. We got a message, you haven't paid your water bill. So anyway, we drove over there because we were in the area, and she said, well, you're not the only one that's saying you're not getting your bills, and so I don't know what's going on, but like I say, the United States Postal Service is going downhill as well. So and then I know a lot of people are talking about what's going on all these meetings. What is it? The one in Egypt. I forget what that's called. Anyway, it looks to me like a lot of people were saying, well, these leaders there must be something wrong with these guys. Are they just dumb or stupid or what? But in reality, if you look in the background, these people are not dumb and stupid. They're doing what they're being told to do. And so the way I see it is the eventual outcome of all this with shipping and energy, food and everything else, passports, and for some reason, they want to jab everybody in the world with with this. I don't know what to call it. It's anyway, they want to jab everybody in the world, and they want a piece of, and they want to, give you a piece of paper saying you've been jabbed. So that way you can, get on a train or fly on an airplane or come into a country. But eventually, I think where we're headed is what they want is to make it so bad and so many things to fail that eventually, people are going to say, hey, we need to do something, and of course, these guys are going to have their little solution, and you're not going to like it, but, like you say, you're going to have you're going to have digital currency. You're going to have a little card that, or whatever, that'll allow you to buy food and, things like that. And in that case, since I'm not going and I'm going to say no to all that, then I'm going to have to continue to grow food, here on my little farm, and, do a lot of things that are, create a lot of things that aren't going to be available to me because I'm not going to go with the system. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy, and I'm seeing things now that I never in my lifetime ever thought I would see or hear, and I just listen to our politicians every day, or go on Zero Hedge and and read articles or whatever, and I come away just going, well, gee, I would have never thought anybody would ever even do anything like that, much less it happening. So, and then of course, I guess we're seeing shortages in diesel fuel. The other thing I think is interesting is that a lot of the plants that produce like diesel and gasoline and oils and all these other things, these refineries are ancient. And because of the EPA and the rules and the regulations, so if some of the major ones fail and can't come back online, well, it's all over with.
Yeah, it's interesting you said something about paying bills. So what if it goes to the digital system and you're unable to even pay your electric bill or water bill without using the digital currency, the CBDC, and you're like, well, I don't even need it, I don't want it, but then you try to pay with cash, but there'll be no cash. So if you're not in the system, you won't even be able to do simple things like pay your water bill, pay your electric bill. And I went in to pay my tax, my property tax, or some people call it land tax. So I was talking to her for a minute there. I was getting a little more deeper on the questions, like how long is it before, if you don't pay your property tax, do they send it to auction? After it goes through the courthouse, the proceedings, and the sheriff, and then it goes to auction finally. 2 years here in East Tennessee.
Yeah, that's.
But again, what if it comes down to you can only pay your property tax with the digital currency?
It can be fast. Yeah, well, that's one way, isn't it, to get you into the system. That's for sure. Or like you say, you can't even pay it. That's the way to get you off your property and into, I don't know, a little cube somewhere that they provide for you and and monitor everything you do, which is kind of where this is probably going to go. I think the other thing is that I find kind of interesting is the World Economic Forum. They're talking about population and there's just too many people and people are they eat but they don't provide anything. So they're useless eaters, and so I think the agenda is not only to take this whole world and turn it upside down. It's also going to be set up to, reduce the population. So, like I say, I don't know where that's going. When I talk about that with my family, they just kind of look. I get blank looks, or, well, that's just, that's crazy grandpa. No, crazy grandpa. That's me. He sees doesn't trust anybody. He's paranoid. And don't listen to him because you'll get depressed. So that's kind of the environment that I live at or live around here where I live. Nobody else in my family even believes any of the stuff that you and I talk about every day. And I think most Americans don't even know, that these things are happening either. And, I think, most Americans don't even know what the EU is, probably. Is that on Mars, maybe? I don't know. So, like I say, there's going to be a lot of surprised people here in the next year or two. And I think 2023 is going to be, is going to be the year where maybe people we're going to start asking some more questions. Instead of, as my favorite phrase is, there's beer and there's pizza in the refrigerator, so who cares about anything else? Things are fine, and so I don't know. Anyway, I go to the grocery store with my wife every week, and things are pretty good here in Texas. All the stores are stocked well. We're really close to Mexico, so we get a huge amount of vegetables and fruits and hey, good Mexican beer, which I don't drink because I'm a diabetic. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff coming across the border still. So, they're going to have to shut that down too because, we've got it too good here in Texas. And it's a joke on my new website is that Central Texas is the new center of the universe, which I'm starting to believe because they're building skyscrapers here in the Austin area, and people are flocking here like crazy, and a lot of businesses are coming in here. So, this may be the last standing city before it's all over with one day. So we may indeed be the center of the United States anyway.
Yeah, it used to be a hip little hippie, chilled back kind of community that wanted to drop out of the world, and they all ended up there for some time, and then that changed. Everywhere you look, it changes. Think about the hippies from the 60s. Dennis, you lived through that era. Like, I wasn't born until like the mid-late 60s, but if you were already alive living through that time, where did they all go to? Because even, you travel off to Thailand or you go somewhere, you might see somebody who's wearing some hippie clothes because it's cool and it's fashionable, but the mind isn't really there. I mean, what happened to the true mind of the people who wanted to change the world for better and share and do all these things that you associate with, like, communities of people living together, or just full-on towns that are pretty chilled out at that time. So is it Austin? That's crazy, because Tennessee over here, we're pretty well stocked on the stores too. If you're going to give a random out to that, like, I only drink wine with my pizza here in Tennessee, and moonshine too.
Yeah. Well, I tell you where I can tell you where all the hippies went. They got old like me. And yes, I indeed went through all that. That was during, the Vietnam War. A lot of my friends who I warned not to join the service became, cannon fodder. And you'll see a lot of these hippies down at grocery stores with not grocery stores, but a small gas station. They're playing a guitar outside, and they went through Nam. They're still living the Vietnam War. And I had a boss that said that his stay in Vietnam, and he had a gun. he used a rifle, and he was in the middle of it. He said there's things he went through with that he can't even think about anymore, and will never even come to grips with. So I think all the hippies, in the 60s, it was like, if it feels good, do it, or do it twice. Doesn't matter what you do if it doesn't hurt anybody. That kind of thinking. Oh yeah, we're gonna change the world. And then there was communes. I remember going to buy a bunch of communes, and I'm going, no, that's not the life for me. But if that's what they want. But they all got old and died, David. That's where all those hippies went.
Yeah, because you got to look at how the world's going to transition from now. It looks like it is on a 400-year cycle, and I'm just wondering how much of our history is true, not, or constructed, because it seems, in my mind, as we go through this reset, the reset will take us back into some sort of serfdom or something as such, and then if it were to take 400 years to come back to this point where, humans have achieved some sorts of freedom step by step by step, this continuous war cycle will go, and the new fiat money system on a digital will go as long as the sun doesn't send out an EMP and fry everything. Even just looking at solar activity, I don't know how long their full digital utopia would even last, because we're expecting some inbound larger flares. So building something that would be destroyed by a solar flare, a CME, I don't know how resilient that really is. So it seems like it'll get reset completely. So if that were to happen and there were some sort of CME, Carrington event, plus, think about all that tech would be useless, so people would abandon it. It would probably take 100 years to come back from that, maybe more. And then a new history could be written around it because, yeah, where do we sit today with this changeover? Because I don't see any of kind of a new movement that says, yeah, change the world, peace and love, everybody together. That's not there anymore.
Yeah, it didn't. Well, I don't know if you noticed lately, I don't know, you read about the pink aurora? And
I did. That was really a crazy one. I actually have that teed up to do a story on eventually.
Well, what's going on there is, well, I don't know if most people even know, but, the magnetic fields of our Earth are waning quite a bit, and they're probably, I think the strength is down. They're estimating now around 27% weaker than they used to be. And so what we're seeing
That's
is
if you believe the data.
Yeah, if you believe the data. Anyway, and so we're seeing a lot more, energetic particles making it down further into the Earth, and that's why we're starting to see, some of this, the sprites and the jets and the pink aurora and all these other things that people never saw before. So I don't know. Anyway, so if that indeed is true, that our magnetic fields are changing, they're moving, and maybe we might go into a magnetic pole shift, not a geophysical one or a physical one, but a magnetic one, then indeed at some point it wouldn't take much at all to take down the whole grid. And so I think there's probably a big race between, the great global reset and controlling everybody with all the electronic equipment and tracking and all this other stuff and cell phones and everything else. There's a big race between them and that want to do that, and our whole electrical grid and I don't know if most people don't understand that a computer runs on all those millions of chips, or what do you want to call them, transistors in a computer on a CPU chip, or your run off 3 volts, and they have a real thin base between the one side of the transistor and the other, and it doesn't take anything at all to destroy one of those things. And so if you destroy some of the transistors in a microprocessor, it's not going to work. And if we have a nice EMP that takes down the power grid and puts a big gigantic pulse into our electrical system, it's going to take everything down. So I don't know which would be worse, for the whole world to go off grid, or to have these morons that want to control everybody have their way with us.
Yeah, that's not really like a pleasant choice you gave me there, did you? So let me, since I had the auroras teed up as one of the stories I've been working on here, rare northern lights occurrence surprises veteran tour guide up to see, obviously, the northern lights. This is off AccuWeather.com back on November 2nd. So what I see when I was looking through the photos, usually you'll see the aurora that are, they're usually banded in different colors. They're quite distinct, where you'll see, one color layer segue into the next one pretty cleanly cut. Like you'll see the greens dancing with the purples, and they're clean. You see both very cleanly. And remember, what is happening is that energy coming in, and Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, interacting with the different elements in our atmosphere, like oxygen, and then kicking off oxygen ions that glow at a different color spectrum than, say, something hitting nitrogen would glow. But what I see in these photos, and I was so enthralled by them, was everything seems to be sandwiched together. Like you said, this pink and purple, it's pink and white intertwined with purple. Like you just don't generally get this, because white is just white hot pure energy, and red is what you see. But I've never really seen like this purple pink banded into the white like this before. It's something unusual. And they had a laying on your back view with the aurora directly over, and it's almost like spikes coming out of, and the different spikes within that are radiating and almost twisting in on themselves like a filament of current wrapping around. And I'm looking at that going, wow, if that really started to wrap around and those two current filaments turned into an auroral rope, like you would get 8 or 10 auroral ropes dancing out of the top of that. And what petroglyph would that mimic if the charge was high enough? Because I'm looking at that, there's just too much energy riding on the same current line. It seems to have straddled and like molded into following a single current flow now versus when it was in its own bands. I can't really explain it. It does. What I'm seeing visually, I have really never, ever seen before in terms of the mixing of, I don't know, maybe you have a better explanation for it.
Yeah, well, they're definitely rotating Birkeland currents. Okay, there's no doubt about that. In fact, I've seen some beautiful photographs that or videos of aurora that you could actually you could see the counter rotation. And if you look at a Birkeland current, you do have counter rotation of the magnetic fields within that current. And you could see that. Okay, you could see the bands going one way and one of the other bands going the other way. So the aurora themselves are definitely caused by the Birkeland current entering the our physical North Pole. Okay, and that energy is and all that is colliding with gases in the atmosphere, and that's why we see the glow. But and that like you were referring to, it's the amount of energy, and it could very well be even the frequency of the gases would where things like you were saying, if there were white. That's higher energy, and then and when you go down to red and the other colors, you're getting into lower energy. So like I say, I'm no expert on that either, but definitely I think in my mind that's definitely a Birkeland current that is going through the Earth itself, and we're entering into more of a higher energy space environment for our star and the planet, and that's why we're seeing changes. So not and like I say, years ago, and I agree with this, I can remember it, that the sun was was kind of yellowish color. It was a lot, and now it's just a brilliant white. And so that in itself is an energy change. From yellow to a brilliant white is a definite change in what the sun's doing. So it could very well be that we're just entering into an area of space, our galaxy, a different area in space that not galaxy but our solar system is entering into a different part of the galaxy, and we're just the Birkeland currents are just more energetic now.
Yeah, well, 2 points on that. If the current inflow is going deeper into layers of the crust, then it would actually have an impact on not only the solid rock crust, but also the liquids within the planet. If they're more electrified, the frequency changes, they're vibrating faster because they're more electrified, then you would get all these external changes within the top, 300 miles of the crust, because you're talking about a huge Birkeland current rolling in from the sun as a direct trunk line over the North Pole. Because I'll tell you, the frequency that you mentioned, like the frequency of the vibration of the molecules, the frequency of the gas is changing. You would expect that if the entire frequency spectrum through the solar system and then through this spiral arm of the galaxy, this local quadrant here, maybe like 4 to 10 light years away, like this little local region here would go through that higher current velocity. The frequency is changing. And, maybe that's why the elite are running at breakneck speed, because they have to cover the awakening that occurs with this frequency change that you can now visibly see in the skies. But how do you think it would affect local weather patterns, and then those local weather patterns where crop grow zones are under them also?
When it comes to weather patterns, most people don't realize it, but all weather patterns are solar caused. Okay. It might not be all that obvious. Oh, look, there's a thunderstorm, or there's clouds, or there's lightning, or there's wind, but eventually it all goes back to the sun, and then of course, like you say, the sun is fed by Birkeland currents. It's just nothing more than a big plasma engine, and so like you say, that those currents also go through our planet. And right now, we're seeing an energetic change in the planetary energy that's entering through like you say, the Birkeland currents into our planet, and also, like I say, there is definitely a wander of the magnetic fields, and they are definitely getting weaker. I mean, that's NASA has even said that, and they just quit talking about it. You can't get they won't give you any more up-to-date information on how weak the magnetic fields are. And so if we're having this added energy, and our jet stream seem to be, attached to, how stable the magnetic field is, we're gonna be seeing more and more violent stuff, like down in Australia, right? The wheat fields became a swimming pool, and let's see, I think there was a dam that broke here not too long ago, or the day or so ago, in somewhere in Australia. But anyway, that's just crazy, nutty, violent weather. And when you take cold air like Arctic air, and take it, and I presume maybe we're going to have a break here soon. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're coming up in about 13 minutes, so you can continue with that, because I had some add-ons to it. Okay.
Well, anyway, so what we're looking at, when you have two differential temperatures, and they're really, really different. One of them is, like I say, is really hot, full of humidity and heat energy, and the other is very, very cold. And when those two come together, you can have, within a 30-mile radius of where they come together violently, and you can have rain on one side and you can have snow on the other. Okay. And so, you could, there's going to be some really weird things happening. And when things happen like that, that's what you get: huge, monstrous, hailstones and crazy stuff like that. So I think you're right. I think the as they say, the powers that be know all this is happening, and like I say, probably 90% of the planet doesn't. They don't. Like I say, I spend my whole days, weeks, months, in the last. I started to. I laugh. I started in the year 2000 worrying about infrastructure failure, and it was downhill after that. I've been at this for 22 years, watching what the Earth is doing, and crazy stuff like that. So anyway, but like I say, I do think we've entered into a more energetic area of space with and we're seeing that in planet changes. Neptune and Pluto, Jupiter, even Mars is starting to be, rattle a little. So anyway, that's my take on it.
Yeah, because it does look like these earth changes cannot be explained away any longer through traditional narratives. It's so off the charts.
I don't know if I lost you or not, David.
I hope not. I'm still here.
Okay.
Energetic changes. Think about in Australia. Australia, what's that fifth once in a 1,000-year rainstorm? It's so wet there that the wheat crop standing in the fields is actually starting to sprout on the heads of the wheat still standing in the fields. And there's no way they're going to harvest that. And where you look at all these different rivers drying out at the moment, the Amazon River's going dry, the Yangtze River in China is completely at one of the lowest water points in 100+ years. We got the Mississippi drying out here that's stranded how many thousands of barges and how many millions of tons of grain. And then we got the Danube over in Europe, the exact same thing. The river has completely dried out, massive drought across Europe, massive drought across the United States, massive drought in China. So what is it about this multi-continent super drought that's going on? It's got to be a cycle. I just can't see it as anything interconnected and interlooped. So I'm wondering if these current flows are that much amplified, then it would affect crop zones and definitely, for sure, the cloud cells and the jet streams. So perhaps they're being pushed in a different place now continuously on the amplified energies inbound that we, even if it's not causing aurora, still just the average base charge is increased enough to make flows move around that increased current where clouds will actually bend around it. They're going to oppose each other. That's why they call it high and low. They do different magnetic charge in on that thing.
Yeah, I think I really do think that a lot of our, if you really do want to look at three things that are affecting, the world at the moment, geophysically anyway, and is like I say, we're entering into a new energetic part of space. Our Birkeland currents are changing. The sun is changing. Our magnetic fields are changing. And so when you put that all together, all that affects weather. Okay. I mean, that's just part of it. And, people maybe know things like, low pressure or high pressure, but, what caused the high pressure and the low pressure? It's sun and the magnetic fields and the current and the energy being fed into our planet. So, you can't get away from that. It's the sun. It's not you. It's
you
not
got to think about the outbound.
It's the sun.
What about the outbound flows too? Because that's what I was doing some research on, is when we start to see elves, the electric elves, well above the sprites and well above the blue jets. If you come to that termination point at the ionosphere at 100 miles plus up, where that exiting outbound current flow is, it actually leaves a donut red hole. It looks like a red donut in the sky of plasma, but they call it an elf. Now, if you follow those elves, which are not as wide as the top of the planet, which, these amplified Birkeland currents going into the North Pole are far, far, far larger than the ones down at, let's say, 30 north or 30 south. We're talking about subcurrents, like little tiny wires coming out versus a big kilowatt something hanging over your heads and going above the highway. That's the difference in the wire. So think about the current flow outbound. You can identify them by looking at the red sprites, the blue jets, and following the elves. But then once you see the termination point on the planet, then you can put a crop grow zone there. And then you get all these microclimate changes because of these smallest of electrified effects that are now changing. So these weather systems are bending around or creating or getting stuck to the same charge. So it's so interesting how suddenly they're talking about all these new power devices and, different systems driven on magnetics and the Earth's magnetic field. But then, they're going to introduce that right when we're going into all these complete extreme fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field. So the machinery that you're going to build on magnetic motors or magnetic whatever it is, gravitics or whatever study they have done with it, it could go in limbo too. In addition to the solar flares that could easily knock out, or those CMEs that could easily knock out electronics. So now you're in like an upsetting, twisting, morphing vortex of changes magnetically. This polar wander is no joke here. I mean, it's really clipping along. I think at last, again, they quit publishing the data. At last measurement, it was around 80 miles per year. That's more than 1 degree on the planet per year. 60 miles for 1 degree. And then as you go from the North Pole down to the South Pole, if you go 1 degree north latitude, you're 60 miles above the equator.
Well, I've been following that quite a bit. And I'm hoping that, like I say, I think it's a big, and as you said, that's not, we only have really two opportunities here is the sun going to take us out, or is some crazy person going to take us out first? So anyway, I'm going to hopefully just sit back and watch all this, because there's not much I can do about it, really. If you think about it, David, you can prepare and you can do the best you can do, but when humanity finally discovers that this planet is not going to be able to support, I think we just ticked over to 8 billion people, and they like to, and that 8 billion people, just like me, they like to eat every day. And when that, all these changes, these earth changes that we're seeing, tick in, and all of a sudden, we can only feed 6 billion people, then, you better, that's what I really want to prepare for. Okay. It's not that I can do anything about, Birkeland currents or the grand solar minimum or anything else, but I can certainly, I can prepare and protect myself and my family and see if I can get through all this. And that's really what, like I say, my little blog is on my website is, let's get through this, and how are we going to do that? And there's all kinds of opportunities and things you can do. And, like I said, I've had a short little list of things that, with what is coming, what are some of the opportunities that individuals can, make available to themselves to get through this.
Yeah, and that'll be the usaprepper.com. We're going to be heading on to the break here in just a minute. But think about everything we've spoken about. And if the average citizen was to learn this, would they continue to pay tax and obey the rule of law? And how would governments control them if it wasn't just one, if it was hundreds of millions or not billions of people with the same exact information going out a little angry, hey, you didn't let us get ready for this event. You could have, but you didn't. How would you quell that or control, obviously? We'll be right back here. David DuByne along with Dennis Delarier. 2 minutes, 2 seconds, and we'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
wherever you reside on this beautiful blue planet. Revolution Radio Seed Point allowing us tonight to stream out to different platforms, Vigilante TV, different YouTube channels, Facebook, Twitter, finally under some more free speech control there. But it is all about free speech. Notice how much speech is being hindered, and that seems to be the name of the game. So we can't even talk about this type of information like weather systems being affected, why, what types of earth changes, what's driving the earth changes, and, you know, entering into a more energetic area of space, Birkeland currents, things that are not allowed to be taught in physics classes because it would provide free power by tapping into the ether. But these types of things, thanks Revolution Radio, if you consider this worth your time, free speech, consider a donation to keep the production costs moving through and allowing us to stream off to different platforms. Now, Dennis, before we were going on the break here, I asked Ransom to send me, a few different comments. So Craig F. says, tornadic, cyclonic, seismicity, volcanic activity are all driven by electromagnetic precursors. So where does it go from here? Do you think the tornadoes and the cyclones are going to increase, more volcanic eruptions and, higher earthquake intensities because the current flow into the planet's changing? And do you think it's going to be sort of a linear trend up, or do you think it's going to be an exponential? Each time we move into a new month or year, it's going to, go up 5x what it did previously, or do you think we'll be on this linear trend?
Okay, yeah, I've thought of that. Anyway, my take on it is that it's.
Oh, Dennis, can you bring your mic closer? You're really, really faint, like when you went on the break, change something.
Yeah, how's that?
Yeah, pretty good. There you go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've got. I think this is $1.25 mic. I'm gonna have to get me a better one, but like I say, I don't really use this mic much. So, but anyway, on the it's going to eventually be exponential, okay? Because what we're looking at right now in the waning of our magnetic fields is that it seems to be like, it's 1 or 2%, every 10 years, and then it's maybe 1% every 2 years, and so on, and what I don't know. What I really think is going to happen, and this has been discussed, I think, in in journals and things like that on, what happens during a reversal, is that it starts out very, very slow, and then it speeds up, and then all of a sudden it grabs you, okay, and you have it goes from things changing, say in 10 years to maybe 2 years of the same amount of change, and then and then it gets faster and faster. And I think that's what we're going to see is eventually we're going to see more and more changes, and they're going to come quicker and quicker, and they're going to be worse and worse. And if this is not a total magnetic pole flip, it could flip right back, but I don't really think it's going to do that. And one of the bad things about a weak magnetic field is the fact that it's kind of like, if you're a Star Trek fan, the shields are down, Captain. Well, that's what our magnetic fields are. They protect the Earth, they protect the ozone layer, and and eventually once the ozone layer is destroyed, and people are saying, oh, it's something else. Oh, it's it's gases that DuPont produced that were destroying our ozone. That was baloney. That's not what happened. It was just they wanted to, make some more money a different way. But anyway, the ozone layer eventually will be destroyed by all the radiation that is not blocked coming onto the planet. And that point, it could get bad enough that you may have to stay inside or grow inside. That you'll have genetic, problems, and you could have plants being burned and things like that at the end of all this. And we're not there yet, but like I say, I think we're starting to see the indications that things are changing on this planet, and that the sun. I'm not sure what it's going to do. I'm thinking that we're going to see a double dip in our sunspots, and I don't think this is going to be a horrible, huge, sunspot. 11 years, like it looks like it's maybe a little more energetic than the last one, but nobody really knows. You don't know what's over the horizon. So I think that's where the damage is going to be done to the Earth itself, not only the animals, but human beings.
Yeah, I was up here on Sislo looking right at this second when you were talking about sunspot numbers and potentiality. So they never do know. It's always a guess. It's always an estimate that can be upgraded at any time. So really, how much is changing? For me, it's more about the light show that it's going to be, that it's something to witness that we know is coming, instead of looking at it as sort of a terrifying event. You could look at it in something awe and wonder that you're seeing the energy from actual universe coming in on us at a higher intensity, which does explain a lot of the more ancient legends, especially going back into the yugas and the different time counting mechanisms with the yuga cycle as well. You come to this very low point in energy, which we just passed through, and then suddenly there's an uptick. There's different names for Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, but wherever our planet's going over these next, say, 6,000 years in space, it's just going to get more energetically dense, and then you come to this golden period, the Sata Yuga, where you can manifest things instantly. So it seems like we do travel around cyclically, even in the spiral arm of our galaxy, which has been mapped out. When we go through these cycles, 6,000, 12,000, 25,000 years, we're just back at it again. And somebody has this knowledge. That's the thing. Maybe we don't, and it's not on the newspapers, but somebody else, I assure you, has this knowledge. You cannot tell me going around the planet for 500 years and stealing all of the records from all of the cultures and assimilating them into one or two single repositories, that they didn't learn an enormous amount about astrology and astronomy, energetics, and who knows how long the records really went back. Because the Mayans were counting some 220 million years prior on their cycles. But what else? Well, what if they found something from the Dogon? Well, yeah, what if they found something in one of the tombs from the Beidou Qixing, the worshippers of the Big Dipper from the pre-Qin dynasties? We just don't know what kind of materials they have in terms of what the cycles show, and how. Can you imagine if we knew down to the very year when it went onset, to the point where you couldn't feed people anymore on the planet? That kind of knowledge. That's what we're up against. And we're out here trying to figure it out ourselves on what's going to happen. So long story there. It looks like solar activity is dropping, and they're looking for average sunspot number here so far this month, 40. Oh, sorry, it was 80. It's dropping down into 40 right now. But I thought it was supposed to be 100. They were claiming in the newspapers it was going to be the strongest one ever. It'd be like 200 average or something. I'm like, what? Right into a grand solar minimum, either end of this cycle or beginning of next. We're really talking just mere years away, like literally 3 years away or less. So it doesn't, it's like splitting a hair. But it never ran up above the hundreds that they were anticipating. And total sunspot number, let me get the plot out here. Let me see. To get the monthly. Yeah, their forecasts were screaming way up around like 200 or so, 200 sunspots, but right now it's showing that it's around 40. It's dropped off. But remember, these two data sets are split apart before they do the averages for the day. So I don't know. We're seeing a lot of strangeness on the sun. And you're right, Dennis. This peak to peak will not even be, it's already dropping off peak. So I wouldn't even imagine it would go out to 2024, 25 for the next peak. It'll probably be right about now. And then what would that do for our crops? And with that massive Tonga eruption with all this new energy inflow, some say it was a weapon. Some say they saw something come out of the sky, skip, and then boom, over the volcano. Okay. Or we're looking at amplified energies that blew out. That would be an outbound current flow, the very opposite of what we talked about, which is creating these strange pink, red, purple wrapping ropes of plasma on the North Pole. Very, very different. That's an inbound current flow. Outbound, like a capacitor's got to, it's overcharged, got to send the electric out, ground to sky lightning, but this would be some sort of magnetic looping rope popping out of the Tonga volcano to reattach itself back to the sun. I don't know. There's too many things happening, Dennis. I'm sorry to ramble there in the beginning of the show, but yeah, how do you think governments would respond to all of this in terms of control? Because if you can only grow enough food for 6 billion people, there's 8 billion now, and somebody's not going to eat, like 25% of the planet. So what steps for control do you see moving next?
Well, I wrote something that's out on my website. It's called The 9 Problems That the Global Reset is going to have. Okay, and you know, getting things done in control. And one of the big problems is that if they don't get these 9, I'd have to go back out and look what they were, but you know, they're things like nationalism, you know, and you know, of course, the United States has got a problem. They have a problem with us, globalism, you know, and all the other things that make our world turn and work. They're going to have to deal with. And if I knew what was coming down the road, I would certainly put up a lot of distractions, because like you say, if I knew in a year and a half that I wouldn't be able to go to the grocery store or you know, get some medicine or you know, put some tires on my car or you know, I get some gasoline or needed diesel. My son has a diesel vehicle. Then I would really become a hard prepper. And I think a lot of people would be as well. And if that's the case, then they would strip everything. And all of a sudden, the powers that be, they're going to be in the same place you and I are. Okay, they're going to be out there trying to, you know, drag up and pay for and get as much, you know, supply wise as everybody else. And so if they keep us distracted and things, you know, working and you know, nobody going crazy, then they can rape and pillage the earth a few more years, to the point where, you know, they own everything. And you know, I'm sure one of these days, you know, someone's going to say, well, you know, we own, you know, the title to your house. You're totally broke, so that house is mine now, and so's the property, and so you know, your neighbor as well. But coming back to you know, energy, we were talking about, you know, the everything is balanced. Okay, nature that's one of the things that when you talk about magnetism, you talk about charges, you talk about electricity, you talk about you know, energy, things. The universe wants to be balanced. Okay, and so things flow from a high to a low. And that's kind of what we see when we see lightning and these sprites and crazy things happening. And it's nothing more than a balancing. It's a balancing act. And so I think we're going to see more and more acts of balancing, and they're going to be pretty wild. And as we progress through this, and of course, like you say, we're also going through the grand solar minimum, and you talk about earthquakes and volcanoes. That's having more of those is just part of a grand solar minimum. Okay, going back to what is it, Felix? I forget Felix's full name. Yeah,
Robert Felix.
Anyway, yeah, and then there's what was our shuttle guy? Man,
John Casey.
Yeah, my brain's not working very well this evening.
Hey man, nobody's is on the planet anymore. Surprising, everybody's got the fog.
That must be me. But anyway, if you go back and look at Casey's books, he was talking about a grand solar minimum and what happens, earthquakes and volcanoes and things like that. And earthquakes and volcanoes are directly related to what's happening probably on the sun. There's no doubt about that. You can almost predict, that we're almost to the point where we can predict where earthquakes are going to be, based on, the, what do you want to call it? Like I say, I'm no expert on that, but, we're almost to the point where we can predict where there may be earthquakes. Okay. And, it seems like, that we're getting better and better at that. And, it's really related to the sun and the energy that is, getting through and down into the core. And what is it? Certain types of volcanoes, if you energize them enough, they erupt, and things like that. So I'm not surprised that we're not going to see more than that. And then of course, you jumped on top of that big volcano there that pushed all that water up into the atmosphere, and I can guarantee you that got kept quiet. I am so glad you jumped on that. Nobody else did. And now we're seeing the effects of it in, places like, South America and Australia and New Zealand, and I guess parts of Southern Africa are going to see some really bad problems when it comes to, cooling and crop production. So, it's kind of like the BRICS nations. That's something that I jumped on years ago and going, wow, we better look out if this goes through, because, the petrodollar isn't going to be around anymore. So it's nice to be able to get somewhere where you can actually talk about things like that. And because I'm not an expert in any of it, but I am definitely an observer of things. And I don't have very many people.
Wait, Dennis, can I stop you for a second on the BRICS there? Yeah. How many nations are now on the BRICS? I mean, the evolution of it was like 4 countries, but how many countries do we sit at today? 30?
Okay, I think I don't think there's any more than that, but their applications for it, about 30, yes. Okay, and I think the one that really kind of made the Western world flip was Saudi Arabia. Okay. So all of a sudden, China became Saudi Arabia's best friend. And I think the Western world and our financial system should be very, very worried about, what's happening there. I was talking to my son about that the other day. I said, I need to put my money in a BRICS bank. transfer all my money into one of those banks, because eventually probably the rate where inflation and spending money and spending gobs of money and sending it over to Ukraine for I'm not sure what, and apparently what is it, they found out that this crypto thing that just failed, they were actually laundering money through that. So anyway, yeah, the dollar is anybody that has a dollar had better think about, using that money as for commodities that that have value and that they can use and can support them more than some ledger on a screen in a bank. So anyway, yeah, but I think I don't know how quick this is going to go. You don't hear a lot about it. I suspect if I was setting that up, it would be partially gold backed, I think, and or some sort of financial basket of currency or whatever, and go from there. So, and also I think that this gives advantages to small countries. That way you won't have the U.S. or the Western world going in there and stomping on people, and threatening them, with financial Armageddon, if they don't do things we want them to do. So I think we're going to see a new world financially here pretty soon, and I think we're going to see also. I think we're going to see the dollar, morph into something else, and then of course there's going to be another morph after that into a global sort of way of transactions, global currency that I think the World Economic Forum wants to probably push out on everybody. So yeah, I'm going to have a World Economic Forum bank account, a digital account, a vaccine passport, and a food passport of some sort. So that's the future, David.
Well, where do you live? I'm coming to join you. It sounds so fun. Sounds so fun.
Yeah, I know, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you
Can
kicked off something there about what?
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. Yeah, I can, but I can't really. I mean, I can imagine trying to stay out of it, but 90+% of people are going to jump right in it because they're going to have to eat and they'll have no way to feed themselves.
Yeah. Well,
so silver. How many percentage of the U.S. population even owns any precious metals at all?
Well,
no,
I'm not really sure.
Less than 1%.
I own silver because I can't afford gold. I don't have a lot of silver, okay, but I do have some, and it's just kind of set there, and people ask me, well, what's your silver worth now? And I'm going, I don't really care. I don't care what my silver's worth. I have it it's a investment in security. It has nothing to do with capital gains or, making money with my silver. It's a way of, I don't know, stabilizing. I don't even know the term to use.
Your wealth. It's like really protecting your wealth against any other outside influence.
Right. So, like I say, when I tell them
been used for 4,000 years, 5,000 years. Well, why do you think it's going to change tomorrow? Plus, I will say, historically, the gold to silver ratio has been anywhere from like 1 to 8 to 1 to 15. I'll be generous and say 1 to 20. So, if it does come down to some sort of equilibrium like it did, like 1 to 15 through the historical 4,000 years of averages, that means where it sits at now takes 80 some plus ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. If that were to come down to 15, the price of silver would go up, and then you could trade your silver in for gold or do whatever. How much would you use of it? Okay, you cash some in to pay off your house, pay off your mortgage, get it completely debt free with like a 10-ounce bar of silver in a hyperinflation event. But then what do you do with the other? Like, how are you going to cash in? Okay, 1 ounce here this week or something like that, and then get some sort of IOU, or they call it like a script or something that says you deposited this much at the vegetable vendor in silver on this day. I don't know how that worked, but it'll be a new pillar of the economy for sure. If you're looking at cryptocurrency and gold and silver, if a new universal basic income rises out in a central bank digital currency, to give people faith in it, they're going to have to really put something behind it worth something. There's going to have to be an asset behind that, or else nobody will believe it again. And through history, it never has worked unless gold's behind the money. So if you were talking about BRICS, it's going to be a gold bearer currency as well. I was reading a little about it too. This is not this year, but they're talking within 5 years. Within 5 years, anybody that has the new denomination bills will be allowed to take those over the counter. Now, see, here's the thing I don't understand. If we're moving to a total central bank digital currency with all digital issuance, programmable money, but then all the BRICS are talking about have real literal paper notes where you could go with that equivalent value and get a piece of gold over the counter. Yet I'm wondering if that will be everyday traded currency, or it'll be like a gold back where you only use it sometimes to trade that bearer instrument for the physical gold over the counter. Could be a gram of gold. You know, they get down to these really small, measurements. A shot of gold, a gram of gold, quarter ounce, 10th ounce. But that's what we're up against here. Like, who's going to want to use the American dollars if it's hyperinflating away? There's nothing behind it except a bunch of debt, and we're not producing. You know, it could get nasty quick, even if it only went to Argentina style. Still, that would America would completely rupture at the seams if it just went to Argentinian levels. Forget Zimbabwe or Venezuela. If it just reached what happened in Argentina, people would lose their minds. They would flip their lids. I don't know how much. Yeah. In chapters of history in America, how many times have you seen Americans flip their lids, literally lose it?
Not too often, if any.
Yeah, not too often.
Yeah, I don't see Americans taking something like is going on in Venezuela. We're too large. We have too many people. We're too used to everything, having everything we want, instantly. And, I don't know. I don't think people could cope with that at all. And, if you're low income now, you can imagine how low income you would be if we became a Venezuela. You would be way down somewhere. And, that would be kind of scary. Personally, I think what I like about the BRICS thing is that I know that my money, has some value, and it's based on something other than, an army or a navy or the good faith of the American whatever. Okay. And the problem is we don't have any good faith anymore. And we never have, actually. Things went downhill after the Declaration of Independence in this country. They wanted a central bank. Oh, we need a central bank, and they tried a whole bunch of times, and they finally got the central bank, and so now my dollar is was it 20? Was it 8? I forget the year. The central banks they started a central bank. Was it?
Yeah, 1913 on the meeting on Jekyll Island.
Jekyll Island.
Who was the author of A Creature from Jekyll Island? That was G. Edward Griffin.
Yeah, I read the book. It was fascinating. So I
read it too. I was enthralled cover to cover on that.
Yeah, it was a really good book, and now that dollar that we had then is worth what, about a penny or something like that, and and boy, that's a good business to be in, right? You need some money. Well, at the time they would just print it, and now they just go into a computer and kind of give it to you. So I don't know. Anyway, and then of course Nixon took us off the gold standard, I guess, and that was the end of it all. And then banks became gamblers. That was one of the reasons I got out of crypto. I got screwed over every time I ever got into it. It's just too volatile, and I never could understand who was controlling what and how. And so if I don't know who and how and what, that's something you shouldn't be in, right? And so I got out of that years ago. But I always saw the value in silver because of the fact that, that silver is, not eroding away anywhere, or it's not becoming, something that isn't. It's an element. And hey, I've used a couple of my coins to make colloidal silver, even for antibiotics. So it has value there too. So it's a neat thing. I did have gold, but I think somebody in my family needed money at one time, so I gave them some of my gold coins, and that didn't work out too well. But anyway, I don't have any more gold. I don't have any gold anymore. So anyway, yeah, I think I think and that's one of the reasons that right now we're seeing the West and the EU and everybody else. They're demonizing Russia. They really want Russia to collapse because I don't know. Like I say, I'm getting to the point where I'm so paranoid about everything that I read or tell or hear that I don't even know what to believe anymore. So you're better off just kind of like sitting back and seeing what happens, almost than making some decision on something I've been duped so many times in my life and believed so many things that turned out to be just an absolute I don't know what was really going on was hidden from me, and I didn't really know what it was. And so I'm kind of at that point now, although all I have to do is look out my door here in Texas, because we had a huge drought here. Like I say, I live in the Austin area, and everything south of here, all the cotton didn't make it. There was no cotton, no grasses, for the cattle. We did get some rice because we, had some water in the Colorado River, which runs through Texas, and they flood the fields enough to, get the rice going. And then, of course, our winter wheat, which is grown northwest of here, didn't make it, and we had freezes, and then we had droughts. And so this year, David, if I would have had to live off the food that I grew on my farm here, I would be a really thin looking guy right now.
Yeah, and you have years and years and years of experience also. Imagine coming into it minute number 1, week number 1, expecting for that to suddenly you put a seed in the ground, and you're still waiting a month later and like, where's the food? What happens when it's fully grown and then the insects start devouring it?
I had grasshoppers.
Yeah, and it was the Japanese beetles out here this year. It is getting a little absurd with the changes that we see, but it's a mental game also. So how are people going to mentally, digest what's happening? First, the first thing that's going to go is they're going to have to realize they were pretty much lied to through this whole last 3 years to get them to this point. And when that collapses, that's going to be a difficult mental bit of information to process. That everything they believed as was the rock solid rod, of what their literal belief system was, suddenly is gone.
I'm not
to
sure.
Start anew, even to try to process that before you can get to everything else, to even understand that you need a new lifestyle,
right,
of growing your own food and trading and doing all these things. You got to go through that first step of realizing, what just happened?
That's going to be hard for people.
Yeah, very.
Because, I'm seeing that now. Okay, and believe it or not, the way a human being is put together is that you can't be wrong, David. There's no way a human being can be wrong. It's built into your survival. Okay, it's built into your genes that even though you're wrong, you make it right somehow. So they'll come up with some excuse. okay, that'll make it right, that they, were duped, or, things aren't as bad as they are, or it was somebody else's fault, or things like that. But I don't see the population actually even getting that what happened to them. And that's happened to me as well. I mean, I'm discovering things where I was absolutely led down, the rosy path of whatever. And I was led, and it was, and I was lied to. There was an agenda there that I didn't see. And so, how are people going to see an agenda? I don't know. And beyond me, I guess I'm just going to have to witness it.
Yeah, because it's going to come so fast and furious. Now, through my analysis over the last, 2.5 years, it seems that the information was given that they're going to take this trajectory and they're going to do these steps. And when I say they, I am talking about central banks in conjunction with unelected WEF officials, and then those that are in collusion with them that are more into what you would consider sovereign government head positions. So you could see everything all moving in tandem, money and power moving with a plan together to bring in. The only reason for the new world starting is because the energy pattern is not holding anymore and we can't grow enough food. It's unsalvageable at its point anyway. Like, you have to understand that the whole reason that all these things are happening in the world, it was not salvageable at the present system to move through these changes that we're getting on the natural side, the magnetic side. It's been like that. That's why I call it's the reset. It's the fingerprint of the grand solar minimum. You get a reset in society every 400 years. This is no different. So when you go back to the 1630s, 1620s, they probably started to see these same signs. And by the time that ferocious cold came in, right in the late 1630s, and then what? They saw it too. So we're back at this same point again. So I would say the next thing coming is going to be the cutoff of the shipping of getting things from a warehouse to your home by using a credit card and not having to leave your home to get things of substance that would help you prepare. But that's not going to be just you. Oh, I can't get my flashlight. Oh, I can't get my Band-Aids or medical kit that I need to. It would be everything for everybody, because think about how many online prescriptions there are. And everything's shipped online around the planet. I think it was something like all prescriptions, above 60% of all prescriptions written today are done online using a payment system and a delivery. And I thought, okay, well, why wouldn't you go to the store right away and get your stuff? Yeah, the first time, but then after that, it's much easier just to have it mailed to your house. You don't have to spend the time to go wait. How inefficient and smug are those, chemists working at the drugstore, the pharmaceutical reps, whatever you call them. What are they? I forget. Why would I want to go waste my time to do that when I could order online? But then Amazon's gotten into that space too, with a lot of online ordering, prescription ordering. The food they had, all the food delivery service, they just nixed. So you got to think what kind of dent put in. How many people are, really subscribe to those food delivery services, and how much did that really cut from people's available food supply, which then, at that point, their actions would change. They'd have to go buy food in different places. So you can see there are effects on every single way this tentacle moves out. So what does happen if there is I wouldn't say full shutdown, but a very deep constriction into what you'd be able to order online and get sent to your home? And heaven forbid if there'd be a banking holiday during this same phase where you wouldn't even be able to use a credit card to buy anything online to get it sent to your home. That would take months and months and months to unravel that and untie it. Same thing with the Mississippi shipping at the moment. Water levels are really low. Spoke at a dairy conference last month. Their analysis was, since it's gotten cold and it's freezing and it's snowing, that water level will stay the same until April, until we get meltwater coming off the snow and the ice that's presently being deposited in massive, unbelievable, like 6-foot snowstorms across Buffalo, 4-foot snowstorms, Great Lakes, anything lake effect snows. So when all that melts, think about that huge volume of water that's going to be rolling into the Mississippi. And Ransom and I talked last week. He was saying that, it's a super drought now, which caused all these shippers to load their grains right along the riverbanks. And then we come into this massive flood in the springtime, and they couldn't get it all back on the boats fast enough. We're going to get even more crop losses. So you can see where this is heading to. But what do you think the next devastating stop would be? So for sure, they're going to be having these new vax passports, and that'll stop pretty much all international travel. And you'll kind of get locked in your own local country. But what if they cut off the internet in addition? That's something to think about too. In addition to cutting off your ability to buy something online to have it delivered to your home. And then once that little trickle of supply runs out, then it's only at government approved centers where you'd be able to purchase any type electronics, foods. And I'm sure Walmart will be one of the places, absolutely. But it won't be. And if you go into Walmart, you might think they're chock-a-block full of stuff. But if you want to find some of the more specialty things, they don't have much. If you're going to try to go in and get ham radios and antennas and all this stuff, they don't have very much. So, there's a couple more steps that are going on in tandem here for sure. The rail strike is going to be another one, Dad. That rail strike, if it does manifest. See, they stopped the rail strike for the grain deliveries just a couple months ago, but this time I don't know if they're going to let it go on purpose to cause more chaos, because these events happen to push or pull markets. So I don't know. What do you think the next inbound thing would be to cut off another something from the human populace?
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. I see food rationing down the road. I wrote some books about. It's called the Great Culling and New Worlds, and essentially the way I see it is that 2019, before the Chinese virus, and by the way, all those people dropping dead. You saw, remember when that?
Oh, we got to go easy on that. I'm sorry. You got to go really super easy. Broadcasting
okay.
over on 2 different YouTube channels.
Okay, I won't go that way. Anyway, the way I see it is this: 2019 was the end of the world as we were used to. Okay, we went to malls, we went shopping, we went out and went to restaurants, and and we went into 3, 4, 5, 6 different kinds of stores. And, we got the products we wanted and we came home. And then, from 2019 until now, okay, we're in what I call World 2, which is it's the online thing. Okay, you order yourself online, you go to the grocery store, you open your trunk, the guy comes out with your food, and plops it in there, or you go over to Amazon and you order all the stuff, and we're now in a world now that there is such a diverse number of different things that it would be impossible to have most of those things in a city anymore. Okay, it just when I need some paper clips, do I go to the paper clip store, or that's absurd, but anyway. So anyway, if we go and look at what's going on now, it's mostly online. Okay, it's mostly things brought to your door. There's there are some big box stores, but they're huge and they're big. Okay, and it's not like it used to be. You would go down to a stationery shop or go over and whatever. Okay, 5 and dime store, things like that. These things don't exist anymore. And to me, World 3 is going to be the world of rationing, and that's where we're going to have the digital currency. We're going to have the food rationing card, and like the WF wants a vaccine, a health card, they call it, that's kind of funny. They call it, they'll call it a health card or a health certification. The whole world needs to be healthy and certified that they're healthy. And you can't do anything, you can't travel unless we know you're healthy. So you can't get on this aircraft until we know you're healthy, and you're not going to make anybody else sick. So that's what I see in World 3.0. It's World 1, World 2, World 3 is just a slow progression into total absolute control of everything we do, everything we think, everything we see, and everything we buy or purchase or eat or drink. Okay, is going to be either digitized or something. Maybe the trees in my yard out here, they're going to have some carbon value that they can put a value to, and I don't know. It's going to be a world of complete control, and that's where we're going, and they need to take things down. So it's like I say, it's slowly happening. We went through 2019 Christmas was a nice time, and then the whole world changed, and it hasn't been the same since 2019. Okay, we're not going back to that ever will we ever go back to this normal thing people want or they think is normal. Okay, and I don't know if people think what's happening now is normal, but I certainly don't see it that way. So I think that's where we're going, David. Well, it's going to be an interesting time, and I absolutely glad I'm alive right now. I'm eating this up. I am so glad I'm getting to see this, because I'm gonna be seeing things that no man or person ever thought they would ever see, and I'm gonna get to experience it. And so anyway, that's the way I look at it. I see it as an opportunity, as something that I can do something about. I can take control of my life. I can say no. Okay, and that's going to be, where I'm going to be headed. I'm going to be headed to a place where I can say no. And most people don't know that there is even a place like that. So who knows what it's going to look like in the next 2 or 3 years.
The place is called In Your Mind is where that comes from. You have to manufacture that one yourself. Going to be a little bit different for everybody out there, I think. But thinking about these types of, so we framed the problem pretty well. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. You can forecast out pretty well what's going to happen too, because where it's going. But then again, with the Tonga eruption, you already know where it's going based on past eruptions through the last 800 years of how long ash in the atmosphere affects global agriculture. So it's going to be a 2-year event overlaid on top of what we're seeing now. There's going to be much more reduced food production coming out of the southern hemisphere this year. Agriculture minister in Ukraine just stated publicly that they will not grow any winter wheat this year, nor corn next year. So then you look at this and go, well, where's the grain supply going to come from? And these are the types of real things that, would be daunting enough to face as a world where, if we go back into different chapters of history when they didn't have such easy shipping and logistics, well, there were famines in places because they couldn't get the food there. Other places have been engineered, like the Holodomor. Speaking of Ukraine, Bolshevik Revolution. So you got to think these either engineered or natural famines were brought on by one thing they all had in common: the delivery or not delivery of food. Where does that take us this year, next year? I mean, Dennis, let me ask you a question. Like, how much really can you grow of your own food before you have to trade with somebody else because you're outside your range of also raising cattle and blacksmithing and all these other skills and products that you need?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one, isn't it? I don't even think that people that are really, really good at growing their own food can grow enough food. And that's, to me, the answer to that, David, is community. Okay. there's a huge strength in stability and security in a community. And if you're going to do this on your own, you're going to be a loner. You're going to say, oh, well, I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to keep away from everybody else. Well, you're going to fail. Okay, it's not going to be possible without a community. And if you go back in history, we go back and look at the Little Ice Age and all the other things that occurred where things were pretty tough. It was communities that survived. A community of farmers or a church community or some sort of city community. Okay, these are the people that actually made it through all those hard times. But the guy outside, out of town that never came in and tried to take care of himself. Well, they found him frozen. So, to me, that's the answer: is community. If there's no community and things are tough, then nobody's going to do very well unless they're a member.
Yeah, that's true. Because, out here in East Tennessee, the early settlers, you would hear stories of that same thing where somebody set out to go homesteading. They built their cabin the first year, second year they're up there. I thought they could get through the winter, and either they hurt themselves coming out and they couldn't get back to get supplies, or their supplies ran out because it snowed too much, and they just got bottlenecked in there. And that was a routine find, is like remote homesteaders. But then we're talking in the 1800s that would try to start off on their own, and then they would oodles of stories of like that. And imagine their log cabins would have been so rudimentary. It didn't have any power saws or any kind of mobile sawmills to cut something flat so it stuck together. It was just rough hewn logs that they'd be trying to stuff moss in there for a minute until the winter was over, where they could try to do some finishing on it. So I still drive through, some of these national parks out here, like Cades Cove's a good one. If you get out to East Tennessee, it has a whole bunch of the old log cabins, and it was a big community back there. But I mean, you look at the cabins, the way even that it was considered like very well curated and well-to-do cabin of the time. And you look at it today and you're like, no, that's impossible. You couldn't live in that thing. Yeah, one or two people, not 10 people, and there's still gaps in the walls and thing. But the size of everything too is small. And today we think of 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 square foot house. That's for two people. Oh, no. Back then, something that was 1,000 square feet was for 8 people. But they had the community. Everybody worked intensively around the area. And, we might have to step back in history a bit and learn a little bit what our forefathers and the persons who survived through these last calamities, how they got together, they went underground, they found the cave systems. There's a lot of things that probably going to transit over from the old world into this new world in terms of lessons that could be useful. Dennis Delaurier, thank you for coming on tonight. We have about 1.5 minutes left, so if you could take us out through the show here. And please remember that the new website, Dennis, is theusaprepper.com. Tons of helpful and useful information over there. Dennis, sign us on out.
Okay, David. Well, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I'm looking out the door here, and I can see my bed over there. I'm going to jump on here pretty quick. But anyway, if people would visit my site, I'd appreciate it. It's brand new, so I have very few, people coming to visit. And like I say, it's a hobby. And I do have a couple of books I sell. I have the Surviving the Grand Solar Minimum, and I just put another book out there, Growing Food at Home. I have a couple books, and that's about it. I am retired. I'm 79 years old, grandfather. They call me Grumpy Grandfather, but they know I'm a marshmallow. And I love my family, and that's why I'm in the business of all this. So take care, David. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Everybody out there, it's time to do a prep check. We'll see you next week. Thanks for your time. Dave DuByne signing off. The Ice Age Conversation. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Revolution